Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring psychosis and antipsychotics. You've
Yeah.
given me a fascinating mix of sources for this one. Academic papers, interviews with some leading psychiatrists in the field,
Mm.
personal stories from people with lived experience,
Yeah.
even a peek into historical treatments.
Interesting.
So it's going to be quite a journey, I think.
Definitely. And what I think is really striking here is how differently psychosis has been understood and treated over time.
Yeah.
We're going to be uncovering some surprising twists and turns along the way, revealing the power of social context, the evolution of medical models, and really the ongoing search for humane and effective care.
I'm ready to have my assumptions challenged.
Good.
One of the first things that caught my attention was this persistent idea of psychosis, especially schizophrenia,
Yeah.
as like a progressive degenerative brain disease.
Yeah.
You know, that idea's been around for ages, going all the way back to Emil Kraepelin's concept of dementia precox from the late 1800s.
Right. Kraepelin's theory, based on his observations of a specific group of patients, really shaped the field for decades.
Mm-hmm.
However, even during Kraepelin's time, other prominent figures like Eugene Bleuler, who coined the term schizophrenia, actually argued that recovery was possible.
Yeah.
So this early disagreement suggests that the progressive degeneration idea wasn't universally accepted, even right from the start.
So cracks in that theory were there from the very beginning.
Right.
But then how did this idea of inevitable brain deterioration become so dominant?
That's where the historical context gets really interesting.
Okay.
Early 20th century brain studies often focused on patients in long-term institutions, showing brain differences in those labeled with schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
But these studies had a major flaw.
Yeah.
They couldn't account for the impact of institutionalization itself.
Oh.
Many of these patients had endured years of isolation, limited social interaction, and even harsh treatments.
Wow.
You know, it's impossible to separate those experiences from the observed brain differences.
That makes you wonder how much of what we've believed about psychosis is actually based on solid evidence versus just the limitations of that historical research.
Yeah.
What if the institutional conditions themselves actually contributed to the very brain changes that they were studying?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to an even more significant challenge to the degeneration narrative,
Yeah.
the impact of antipsychotic medications on the brain.
That's where things got really eye-opening for me.
Right.
I always thought antipsychotics were the solution, but the research, it paints a much more complex picture.
Exactly. While antipsychotics can be effective for some in managing acute symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
their long-term effects are actually hotly debated.
Okay.
Here's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
Long-term use of these medications may actually worsen outcomes for some individuals,
Okay.
challenging the idea that they're always the best or only solution.
That's a big statement.
It is.
Tell me more about this potential downside of long-term antipsychotic use.
So let's look at some landmark research.
Okay.
Martin Harrell's long-term study.
Yeah.
This followed patients for over 2 decades
Wow.
and found something remarkable. Individuals who discontinued antipsychotics actually had significantly higher recovery rates compared to those who remained on medication long-term.
Wow.
This suggests that for some, coming off antipsychotics might actually improve long-term outcomes.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
And Robert Whitaker's work also pointed to potential long-term harm from these medications, right?
Yes, Whitaker's analysis of multiple studies revealed a concerning pattern.
Uh-huh.
Antipsychotics appear to worsen long-term outcomes for many, potentially due to a phenomenon called drug-induced dopamine supersensitivity.
Okay, and break that down for me.
Okay, imagine your brain has a volume knob for dopamine,
Okay.
a neurotransmitter. Antipsychotics basically turn that knob down.
Mm-hmm.
But your brain, being adaptable, tries to compensate by making the knob more sensitive.
So it's like turning the volume down, but making the speaker more sensitive to any sound.
Exactly. Over time, even small amounts of dopamine create a bigger response,
Yeah.
potentially leading to a rebound effect where you become more vulnerable to the very symptoms you were trying to control.
Mm.
Plus, long-term antipsychotic use has been linked to brain volume reduction, further impacting cognitive function.
Right.
This raises a really important question.
Yeah.
How do we balance the need for immediate relief with the potential for long-term harm?
It seems like informed consent and shared decision-making with healthcare providers are absolutely crucial in these situations.
Yeah, I agree.
Individuals need to understand the potential risks and benefits,
Yes.
explore alternatives,
Oh.
and be aware of safe withdrawal protocols if they choose to discontinue medication.
I completely agree.
And that leads us to another fascinating area highlighted in your sources, the profound influence of trauma and social factors on psychosis.
Yeah.
It challenges the purely biological model by acknowledging that mental health can't be isolated from someone's lived experience.
Right.
I was deeply affected by the research connecting childhood trauma, poverty,
Yeah.
and the development of psychosis.
Yeah. It's very powerful.
Yeah, it feels like we can't just focus on the brain without addressing the social conditions that contribute to mental distress.
You've hit a crucial point.
Okay.
Think about John Reed's research,
Yeah.
which found astoundingly high rates of childhood abuse
Hmm.
among individuals diagnosed with psychosis,
Wow.
significantly higher than in the general population.
Yeah.
This suggests that early trauma can leave like really deep scars that may actually manifest as psychosis later in life.
That's incredibly powerful evidence.
Yeah.
It suggests that addressing childhood trauma and creating like safer environments for children could be a powerful form of prevention.
Absolutely. And the link between social factors and psychosis goes beyond childhood.
Right.
Marginalized communities, immigrant groups,
Mhm.
and individuals experiencing poverty.
Yeah.
They consistently have higher rates of psychosis. This points to social stress as a major contributing factor, highlighting the impact of systemic inequalities on mental health.
If we truly want to understand and address psychosis, we can't ignore the social context.
Yeah.
It forces us to ask, what if, instead of solely focusing on individual brains, we address the systemic issues that contribute to mental distress?
That's a profound question.
Right.
And it leads us to explore some exciting alternatives to the conventional medical model.
Okay.
Your sources highlight approaches that emphasize social support, therapeutic communities, and even question the very concept of diagnosis.
Okay, now we're getting into the really interesting stuff.
We are.
Tell me more about these alternative approaches.
Yeah.
What are they all about?
They share a common thread,
Uh-huh.
a shift from viewing psychosis solely as a brain disease to understanding it as a human experience.
Okay.
They ask us to consider,
Yeah.
what if psychosis is a way of coping with distress,
Mm-hmm.
a potential for growth,
Mhm.
and a meaningful part of someone's life story?
That's a radical shift in perspective.
It is.
Can you give me some specific examples of how these alternative approaches work in practice?
Sure. Let's start with the Soteria project,
Okay.
developed in the 1970s.
Okay.
Soteria creates a non-coercive, relationship-based environment with minimal medication use.
Okay.
They emphasize trained staff who are present and supportive, helping individuals navigate psychosis without resorting to heavy medication or hospitalization.
So it's about creating a sense of safety and support, allowing individuals to process their experiences without feeling forced or controlled.
Exactly.
I see.
And the research on Soteria is encouraging.
Okay.
They consistently demonstrate successful outcomes comparable to or even exceeding traditional settings.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Another compelling example is open dialogue, developed in Finland.
Yes.
It focuses on immediate crisis intervention
Really?
involving the individual's family and social network right from the
Right
start.
away. Yeah.
It sounds like open dialogue recognizes that healing doesn't happen in isolation,
Uh-huh.
but within a web of relationships and community support.
Precisely.
And the results are impressive.
Very.
Open dialogue has significantly reduced the need for hospitalization and long-term medication in Finland.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It challenges conventional practices by demonstrating that immediate collaborative support can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, this is already giving me a lot to think about, and there's even more, right?
There is?
What about this idea of undiagnosing? That sounds intriguing.
Undiagnosing, as described by psychiatrist Swapnil Gupta,
Yeah.
moves away from rigid diagnostic labels and focuses on understanding the individual's unique experiences and challenges within their social context.
So instead of just labeling someone, it's about getting to know them as a person and exploring their unique journey.
That's the idea.
It feels much more human-centered.
It is.
Undiagnosing empowers individuals to find meaning and healing outside of diagnostic categories,
Yes.
allowing them to to reclaim their narrative and explore alternative paths to recovery.
That's right.
It's a powerful reminder that there's more to mental health than just diagnoses and medication.
Absolutely.
This exploration of alternatives is incredibly exciting.
It is.
It encourages us to think beyond the limitations of traditional psychiatry and consider a wider range of possibilities.
Yeah.
What I'm taking away is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to psychosis.
Right.
And that finding what works best for each individual requires open-mindedness, careful consideration, and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Right.
And that's what makes these deep dives so rewarding.
Yeah.
Uncovering hidden gems of knowledge and challenging assumptions to arrive at a more nuanced and informed understanding.
Yeah. I'm ready for more.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next chapter of this deep dive.
Okay. Now, alongside these alternative approaches, your sources also emphasize the invaluable insights we gain from personal accounts of individuals who have lived through psychosis.
Right.
These stories offer a really powerful counter-narrative to the dominant medical model, reminding us that psychosis is, at its core, a human experience.
That's why it was so important for me to include those voices in this deep dive.
Yeah.
Too often, these experiences are silenced or pathologized.
Right.
What struck me most was how these stories highlighted the incredible power of human connection in recovery.
You've touched on a critical element that's often overlooked in traditional treatment settings.
Yeah.
Many of these accounts emphasize the profound impact of simply being seen and heard, not just as a patient or a diagnosis, but as a whole person.
Right.
They yearn for empathy, compassion, and genuine human connection in their therapeutic relationships.
Oh, it's about meeting people where they are with curiosity and without judgment, rather than trying to fix or control their experiences.
Yeah.
One story that really resonated with me was Laura's.
Okay.
She described a therapist who, instead of focusing solely on her symptoms, was genuinely interested in her life, her dreams, her fears. This therapist helped her understand her psychosis, not as a disease, but as a meaningful, albeit challenging chapter in her life story.
That's a beautiful example of how a truly therapeutic relationship can foster healing.
Yeah.
It highlights the limitations of relying solely on medication.
Right.
While antipsychotics might help manage certain symptoms, they can't address the underlying emotional and existential issues that often contribute to psychosis.
That's where those alternative approaches shine, wouldn't you say?
I think
they create spaces for exploring those deeper issues, connecting with others who understand, and ultimately finding unique paths to well-being.
Precisely. They offer a different framework for understanding and responding to psychosis, one that recognizes the inherent complexity and depth of human experience.
Okay, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, this idea of psychosis as a potential for growth.
Okay.
I have to admit, that's a radical concept,
Yeah.
one that challenges many of my preconceived notions about mental health.
Sure.
Can you elaborate on that?
It's definitely a concept that pushes us beyond conventional thinking.
Yeah.
Some researchers propose that psychosis, while undeniably distressing,
Yeah.
can also be a form of heightened awareness, even a spiritual awakening.
So instead of just seeing the pathology, we can also see the potential for insight, creativity, and personal transformation.
Exactly. It requires a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
From viewing psychosis as something to be eliminated to recognizing it as a potentially meaningful part of the human experience.
Right.
Of course, this doesn't diminish the real suffering that psychosis can cause.
Of course.
But it invites us to consider a broader range of possibilities.
It's about honoring the stories and perspectives of those with lived experience, recognizing that their journeys can teach us valuable lessons about resilience, healing, and the human capacity for growth.
Absolutely. Their voices are essential in shaping a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of psychosis.
Now, our deep dive also takes us back in time.
Yeah.
to explore the history of treatments for psychosis.
Okay.
Why is it important to understand this historical context?
Looking back, it helps us see how profoundly our beliefs about psychosis have shaped the ways we've treated it, often with devastating consequences.
Yeah.
It reminds us that what we consider scientific or evidence-based today
Yeah.
is often deeply influenced by cultural norms, social anxieties, and prevailing medical models, all of which are subject to change.
Makes you realize that what we see as the truth about psychosis today might look very different in 50 or 100 years.
Exactly.
So what kind of historical treatments did we uncover in our sources?
So before the advent of antipsychotics in the 1950s,
Right.
treatments were often much harsher than what we see today. You know, lobotomies,
Oh, wow.
insulin shock therapy,
Oh, wow.
and even physical restraints,
Hmm.
all driven by the belief that psychosis was a biological defect that needed to be eradicated or controlled.
Those treatments sound absolutely terrifying.
They were,
It's a stark reminder of how far we've come,
yeah,
but also a cautionary tale about the potential for harm when fear and misunderstanding drive treatment approaches.
precisely.
Then with the introduction of chlorpromazine,
Uh-huh.
the first antipsychotic
Mm-mm.
in the 1950s,
Yep.
there was a wave of optimism.
A lot of hope.
These medications were initially hailed as miracle cures,
Right.
allowing for the deinstitutionalization of many patients.
Yeah.
But as we've discussed, the long-term impact of these medications is now being questioned,
Mm-hmm.
and those alternative, more holistic approaches are gaining traction. It
Yeah.
seems like we're coming full circle in some ways,
Indeed.
returning to those early principles of moral treatment that emphasized human connection, social support, and therapeutic environments.
You're right. We're not advocating for a return to those older, harsher treatments.
No, of course not.
But it's about integrating the best aspects of different approaches.
Right.
We can combine valuable insights about social and environmental factors with the more cautious approach to medication,
Okay.
and a greater appreciation for the potential of those alternative therapies we discussed earlier.
So it's about finding a balance that works for each individual,
Yes.
considering their unique needs and circumstances, and recognizing that recovery is not a one-size-fits-all process.
Exactly.
It's about personalized care, shared decision-making, and recognizing that there are diverse paths to healing and well-being.
I agree.
Speaking of diverse paths, I was particularly intrigued by the emphasis our sources placed on the role of creativity and meaning making and recovery from psychosis. We often think of creativity as separate from mental health, but your sources suggest a powerful connection.
It's a connection I'm passionate about.
Okay.
Creativity can be an incredibly powerful tool for healing and recovery. It offers a way to express those often intense and difficult to articulate experiences.
Yeah.
To find meaning in the chaos, and to reconnect with oneself and the world.
It's like when words fail, art can provide a language for the unspoken.
Yes.
Offering a way to communicate what might otherwise remain hidden or misunderstood.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And creativity isn't limited to traditional art forms like painting or music.
Yeah.
It can manifest through writing, dance, gardening, even cooking.
Yeah.
It's about finding those outlets that allow for self-expression, exploration, and a sense of agency, regardless of one's artistic talent.
One of our sources, psychologist Stein Van Hool,
Okay.
described how creativity can help individuals translate those primary process thoughts, the raw, unfiltered thoughts and feelings associated with psychosis into a language that can be shared and understood by others.
That's a brilliant way to describe it. It's about bridging the gap between the internal world of psychosis and the external world of shared reality.
Yeah.
By externalizing those internal experiences through creative expression, individuals can begin to make sense of them,
Right.
integrate them,
Yeah.
and ultimately reclaim a sense of authorship over their own lives.
That idea of reclaiming authorship is so powerful.
It is.
Instead of feeling like your experiences are controlling you, you can start to engage with them, shape them,
Right.
and even find meaning and purpose in them.
Absolutely.
And one of the the most mind-blowing ideas I encountered in our research was the suggestion that even hallucinations,
Yeah.
often seen as a hallmark of psychosis, could
Yeah.
be viewed as a form of creative expression.
That's a fascinating perspective.
It challenges us to reframe how we view even the most challenging aspects of psychosis. Instead of simply dismissing them as pathological, what if we view hallucinations as the brain's attempt to make sense of overwhelming experiences, to find patterns and connections in a world that might feel chaotic or fragmented.
It's a powerful reminder that even those experiences that we might label as symptoms can hold valuable messages if we're willing to listen with curiosity and openness rather than fear and judgment.
Now, this deep dive has really made me think about the impact of social media and technology on psychosis,
Okay.
especially given how pervasive they are in today's world.
It's an area of growing concern and research.
Yeah.
Social media, like many things, has a dual nature.
Okay.
On the one hand, it can offer a sense of connection and community,
Right.
which can be valuable for individuals who might feel isolated.
But on the other hand, it can also be a source of stress, anxiety, and even paranoia, especially for those already struggling with similar experiences offline.
Exactly.
The constant barrage of information, the pressure to present a perfect image, the potential for cyberbullying and online harassment.
Right.
All of these can exacerbate existing mental health challenges,
Yeah.
including psychosis.
Including psychosis, and then there's the whole issue of misinformation and conspiracy theories,
Oh, right.
which can be incredibly seductive and difficult to disentangle from reality,
Yeah.
especially for someone experiencing delusions or paranoia.
It seems like navigating social media requires a whole new set of skills,
It does.
especially for those with mental health
It
challenges.
does. Yeah.
It's not just about avoiding it altogether,
Right.
but what about developing media literacy, critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
and strategies for managing the potential risks while harnessing the potential benefits.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We need to have more open and honest conversations about the potential impact of social media and technology on mental health, both within the mental health community and in society at large.
Another aspect of psychosis that we can't ignore is the experience of stigma.
Stigma is unfortunately a pervasive and incredibly damaging force
Yeah.
that can have a devastating impact on the lives of individuals with psychosis.
It creates barriers to seeking help, accessing treatment, and
Yes.
finding support. It can also lead to feelings of shame,
Yes.
guilt, and hopelessness,
Yeah.
making recovery that much more challenging.
And stigma doesn't just come from society at large.
Right.
It can come from the media, from healthcare professionals,
Okay.
and even from within families.
Yeah.
It's like this pervasive fear and misunderstanding that leads to discrimination, social isolation, and even self-stigma,
Right.
where individuals internalize those negative beliefs.
We need to actively challenge and dismantle stigma.
We do.
Education is key. The more we understand about psychosis, the less we fear it.
Exactly.
We need to share stories that humanize these experiences and advocate for policies and practices that promote inclusion and understanding.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where mental health challenges are met with compassion and support,
Yes.
not fear and judgment.
Right. Your sources highlight the importance of creating spaces where people with lived experience feel safe to share their stories and connect with others who understand peer support groups. And online communities can be incredibly valuable resources.
Well, knowing you're not alone, that others have gone through similar experiences and come out the other side can be incredibly empowering and hopeful.
It can.
These communities can also serve as platforms for advocacy and social change,
Yeah.
challenging stigma and promoting more humane and effective treatment
I
options.
agree.
And speaking of effective treatment options, I want to circle back to this idea of psychosis as a potential for growth.
Okay.
It's such a powerful
It
and
is.
and frankly challenging concept to grasp.
It is.
I imagine many people, especially those who have experienced the immense suffering that can accompany psychosis, might struggle with this idea.
It's a complex concept.
Yeah.
It's essential to acknowledge that psychosis can be incredibly difficult and painful,
Of course.
disrupting lives, relationships,
Yeah.
and one's sense of self.
Yeah.
We should never romanticize or minimize that suffering.
Right. It's not about saying psychosis is a good thing. Everyone should experience it.
No, not at all.
Right.
But what I've witnessed in my work and
Yeah.
what your sources suggest is that even within those incredibly challenging experiences,
Yeah.
there can be seeds of growth, transformation, and even wisdom.
It's about finding those glimmers of hope amidst the darkness.
Yeah.
Those moments of insight that can emerge from grappling with profound questions about reality, identity,
Yeah.
and the meaning of life.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the potential for post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
The resilience of the human spirit
Uh-huh.
and the incredible capacity for transformation that can arise from even the most difficult life experiences.
It's about creating spaces where people feel safe to explore those possibilities,
Yes.
to find meaning in their journeys, and to connect with others who understand.
Absolutely.
And this brings us to an important point, the language we use to talk about psychosis.
Yeah.
Too often that language is steeped in fear, stigma, and a sense of otherness.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
The language we use has a profound impact on how we perceive and treat individuals experiencing psychosis.
Right.
It can perpetuate harmful stereotypes
Yeah.
and reinforce a sense of separation and isolation.
It's like we need a new vocabulary.
Yeah.
One that's grounded in compassion, understanding,
Oh.
and a recognition of our shared humanity.
I agree.
Instead of talking about people with psychosis as if they're somehow fundamentally different from us,
Right.
broken
Yeah.
or dangerous.
Mhm.
We need to use language that reflects their inherent worth and dignity.
Your sources offer some valuable suggestions.
Mhm.
They emphasize using person-first language.
Right.
For example, referring to someone as an individual experiencing psychosis
Right.
rather than a psychotic.
Yeah, yeah. It's a subtle shift,
Yeah.
but it makes a world of difference in how we perceive and relate to others.
It's about seeing the person,
Yes.
not just the diagnosis.
Exactly.
Another suggestion was to replace the word symptoms
Okay.
with experiences.
That's a powerful shift.
Right.
Instead of pathologizing those intense thoughts and feelings,
Yeah.
we're acknowledging them as valid human experiences
Right.
that need to be understood and addressed.
And that shift in language reflects a broader shift in how we view psychosis.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on deficits, we're recognizing the strengths, resilience, and potential for growth
Yes.
that exists within each individual.
Mhm.
And that leads us to another intriguing theme that runs throughout your sources,
Right.
the idea of psychosis as a form of communication.
Okay, so instead of seeing psychosis simply as a collection of symptoms or a brain disorder,
Right.
what if we recognize that those experiences might be trying to tell us something?
Yeah.
It's about listening differently, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to silence or suppress those experiences,
Right.
what if we approach them with curiosity and a genuine desire to understand?
Right.
What if psychosis is a way of communicating unmet needs, unresolved traumas, or even a profound sense of disconnection from oneself or the world?
those are powerful questions,
They
and
are.
exploring them requires a willingness to move beyond our preconceived notions and
Mm.
to truly listen to the experiences of those living with psychosis. It's about creating spaces where those messages can be heard,
Yeah.
where individuals feel safe to express themselves,
Uh,
and where healing and growth can occur.
it's about fostering a culture of empathy and understanding
Yeah.
where mental health challenges are seen not as weaknesses or defects,
Right.
but as opportunities for growth, transformation, and connection.
And speaking of connection, I want to highlight a theme that's emerged repeatedly in our exploration,
Yeah.
the critical role of family and social networks in the recovery process.
Your sources strongly emphasize the importance of involving loved ones in the treatment and support of individuals experiencing psychosis.
Ah,
They stress the need for education,
yeah.
open communication, and a shared understanding of the challenges and possibilities.
Yeah.
Families can be incredible sources of strength and support, but they also need support and guidance themselves.
Absolutely. Families often feel lost or overwhelmed when a loved one is struggling with psychosis.
Right.
They might not know what to do, what to say, or how to help.
Yeah.
That's where approaches like open dialogue, which
Mhm.
we discussed earlier, can be so transformative.
You can.
By bringing families into the conversation from the beginning,
Uh,
it creates a sense of shared responsibility and empowerment.
yeah.
Instead of treating the individual in isolation,
Right.
it recognizes that healing and recovery happen within a web of relationships.
Yes.
And it acknowledges the profound impact that psychosis can have on families,
Yeah.
offering support and guidance to help them navigate those challenges together.
That's right.
It's a beautiful example of how a more inclusive and collaborative approach can benefit everyone involved.
I agree.
Now shifting gears a bit, I want to bring up a topic that often sparks controversy and debate:
Let
the role of spirituality in the experience of psychosis.
it's a fascinating and complex area
It is.
that deserves careful consideration.
Yeah.
As we've seen throughout this deep dive, psychosis can often involve intense spiritual or religious experiences.
And those experiences can be both a source of comfort and a source of distress,
Ah,
both for the individual and
yeah.
for those around them.
Absolutely. For some, spiritual experiences can be deeply meaningful,
Yeah.
offering a sense of purpose, connection, and understanding in the face of what might otherwise feel like chaos and confusion.
Right.
They can be a source of strength and solace,
Yeah.
helping individuals make sense of their psychosis and find their way back to a sense of wholeness.
But those same experiences can also be frightening,
Yeah.
disorienting, and
Yeah.
potentially even dangerous,
Yeah.
especially if they lead to extreme beliefs or behaviors.
Right.
It's like that fine line between what might be healing and what might be harmful can become blurred.
That's the paradox of psychosis. It,
Yeah.
it, it can it can blur the lines
Mhm.
between
Yeah.
between reality and fantasy,
Right.
making it challenging to discern what's real and what's not.
It's not about dismissing those
Mm.
spiritual experiences as simply pathological,
Right.
but it's also not about blindly accepting them as absolute truth. It's about navigating those experiences with both sensitivity and discernment.
Precisely.
It's about creating a space for open and honest dialogue where individuals feel safe to share their experiences,
Yes.
explore their meaning, and seek guidance without fear of judgment or rejection.
I agree, and it's about recognizing that spirituality is a deeply personal and individual experience.
Yeah.
What might might be healing for one person could be harmful for another.
So the key here, as with so many aspects of psychosis, is open communication,
Yes.
both for the individual and for those around them.
Yeah.
It's about creating a safe and supportive environment
Mm.
where people can share their thoughts,
Right.
feelings, and experiences
Yeah.
without fear of judgment.
Exactly. And it's also about seeking guidance and support from mental health professionals
Okay.
who are experienced in working with the spiritual dimensions of psychosis.
Right.
Navigating these complex and sensitive issues
Mm-hmm.
requires expertise, compassion, and a deep respect for the individual's unique journey.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something incredibly important,
Okay.
especially in the context of psychosis,
Yeah.
self-care.
Self-care is essential for everyone,
Yeah.
but it's especially crucial for individuals experiencing psychosis and for their loved ones.
Right.
Psychosis can be incredibly draining,
Mhm.
both physically and emotionally. It can disrupt sleep appetite,
yeah.
energy levels, and overall well-being.
Yeah.
Prioritizing self-care practices that nourish the mind, body, and spirit can be incredibly helpful in managing those challenges and promoting recovery.
Absolutely. So what kind of self-care practices are we talking about?
It's really about anything that helps you feel grounded,
Yes.
centered, and connected to yourself.
Okay.
It might involve getting enough sleep,
Sure.
eating nutritious foods,
Okay.
engaging in regular exercise,
Right.
spending time in nature,
Yeah.
practicing mindfulness or meditation,
Oh.
connecting with loved ones,
Yeah.
pursuing creative outlets,
Right.
or anything else that brings you joy and a sense of peace.
Yeah.
It's about finding those activities that replenish your energy
Mhm.
and restore your sense of well-being.
It's about making self-care a non-negotiable part of your daily routine.
Yeah.
Not something you do only when you have time or when you're feeling completely overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
and it's important to remember that self-care is not selfish.
I agree.
It's about taking care of yourself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can be your best self for yourself
Yeah.
and for the people you care about.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Self-care is an act.
As we wrap up this deep dive, one thing that keeps echoing in my mind is this idea of embracing neurodiversity.
Yeah.
It feels like a powerful antidote to the fear and stigma surrounding psychosis.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Embracing neurodiversity means acknowledging and celebrating the vast spectrum of human minds,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that there's no one right way to think, feel, and experience the world.
Yeah.
It's about moving away from a deficit-based model that pathologizes differences and instead appreciating the unique strengths and contributions that diverse perspectives bring.
Imagine a world where those differences were celebrated rather than feared.
Yeah.
A world where people experiencing psychosis felt safe to express their unique ways of being without judgment or the pressure to conform.
What a powerful vision.
Right?
And that vision aligns with some thought-provoking ideas in your sources.
Okay.
Some researchers propose that psychosis might not be a breakdown of mental functioning, but rather a different kind of mental functioning altogether.
Yeah.
One that offers unique insights and perspectives.
Instead of viewing psychosis solely through a lens of disorder,
Right.
we can approach it with curiosity and openness,
Yeah.
recognizing that those experiencing psychosis might have valuable insights to share.
Yes.
It's about fostering a sense of shared humanity,
Hmm.
recognizing that we all have something to learn from each other,
Right.
regardless of how our brains are wired.
Exactly. And that leads us to a key takeaway from our deep dive.
Okay.
The profound importance of challenging those outdated assumptions and stereotypes about psychosis.
Stigma thrives on ignorance and fear.
It does.
It prevents people from seeking help,
Yeah.
isolates them from their communities,
Uh-huh.
and perpetuates harmful misunderstandings.
It does.
We need to actively combat stigma through education, open dialogue, and sharing stories that humanize the experience of psychosis.
I agree. It's about creating a culture where mental health challenges are met with empathy and understanding
Right.
rather than judgment and rejection.
We need to advocate for policies and practices that support inclusion,
Yes.
access to appropriate care,
Hmm.
and opportunities for individuals with psychosis to participate fully in their communities.
And we need to keep exploring and supporting those alternative approaches that we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Approaches that prioritize social connection, therapeutic communities, and the importance of personal narratives and meaning making.
It's about recognizing that there are many paths to healing,
Yeah.
that those paths often lie outside the traditional medical model.
Absolutely. It's about empowering individuals to find the approaches that resonate with them,
Right.
whether it's peer support groups,
Uh,
creative expression,
mm-hmm.
spiritual practices,
Yeah.
or a combination of these.
Sure.
Recovery is not a one-size-fits-all process.
Right.
It's about finding what works for each individual and supporting them on their unique journey.
This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has from challenging long-held assumptions
Mm-hmm.
to exploring cutting-edge research and alternative approaches
Uh-huh.
to hearing firsthand accounts of resilience and recovery.
Yeah,
We've covered a lot of ground.
we have.
And yet, as with any deep dive, we've only scratched the surface of this complex and multifaceted topic.
I think one of the most powerful takeaways for me is the recognition that our understanding of psychosis is constantly evolving.
Yes.
What we know today might look very different in the years to come.
Absolutely.
And that's actually incredibly hopeful. It means we're
Yes.
moving away from rigid dogmas
Right.
and embracing a more nuanced, compassionate, and ultimately more effective approach to supporting those experiencing psychosis.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that spirit of continuous learning, questioning, and evolving is crucial.
Yeah.
We need to stay open to new perspectives, to listen deeply to the lived experience of those navigating psychosis,
Right.
and to advocate for approaches that prioritize individual well-being, agency, and the possibility of a meaningful and fulfilling life regardless of diagnosis.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into psychosis and antipsychotics, what's the final thought you'd like to leave our listener with?
I want to leave our listener with a resounding affirmation of hope.
Okay.
Hope that recovery is possible, that there are multiple pathways to healing and well-being,
Yeah.
and hope that we can collectively create a world where mental health challenges are met with compassion, understanding, and unwavering support.
What if we dared to approach psychosis not with fear and judgment, but with curiosity and compassion?
Yeah.
What if we sought to understand its mintages
Mm.
and supported individuals in finding their own unique paths to healing and wholeness?
That's a great question to leave them with.
Those are questions worth pondering as you continue your own exploration of this complex and fascinating facet of human experience.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.